Last fall, I was asked to showcase my artwork for an event. I was excited to participate and share my artwork with others. But putting yourself out there as an artist often makes me feel very vulnerable, and I have to be brave because you know that people are going to see your work. But I am learning as an artist that it's important to get my work out there so that I can grow not only in my skill as an artist, but also I can grow in my art business. So getting ready for this event, there were a few things that I needed to keep in mind. You want to select your work, prepare your artwork, photograph your artwork, promote the event, and then once you have your artwork, you have to think about the fact that you have to install your artwork, attend the reception or the event, engage with your audience, and follow up and reflect. It sounds like a lot, but these steps are important as you get your work ready for any kind of gallery or showcase. So the first thing I want to talk about is how I select my work. I go about this in different ways, but I basically take some time to kind of journal and write down some concepts and some ideas that I have in mind for a particular collection that I want to share. But it does take lots of coffee. This part takes time and patience. I don't want to rush into any collection. I'll sketch down my ideas and make myself notes in my journal so that I have something that I can kind of go back with. I'll ponder those ideas and then I'll make a few more quick notes. And once I have all of that written down, then I get started on the work, prepare my work. So as I started this collection, I was thinking that I would work with about 15 to 20 pieces. I knew that I wanted it to contain stories, words, and images, overall storytelling and connection. And I knew that I wanted them to be mixed media. And that is the creative part. It's my favorite part. It takes the longest amount of time, but it is so worth it at the end when I'm able to have, several pieces of this collection done. So with my mixed media pieces, I work in layers. If you are interested in this process, it's very similar to what I do in my art journals or my mixed media sketchbooks. It's very similar to that. But I'll put down a lot of different layers and I build upon those layers. And I try to work on two pieces at a time or several pieces if they are smaller in size. And that way I can I can work on the similar pieces of the layering at the same time. But I'm using all of those torn scrapbook papers. And then I put on a layer of sewing patterns. So this was my initial idea. Once I put these down, the images from those scrapbook papers begin to show through. And then I use acrylics, I use ink, I use gelatos and all kinds of different things to then put on the layers on top. So I wanted a lot of words. This one that I'm working on here was about motherhood. So I used words that talked about, boys playing in the dirt, being a mother and the sacrifices that we make as a mom. I wanted it to have kind of a grungy look, but I also wanted it to look like a landscape. So I really focused on the hills and the valleys within this piece to really give it that landscape look. So I just want to note that my art studio isn't very big. It's actually our dining room space that we don't use as a dining room. I do have to put something down to protect the carpet, Carpet and art does not mix well, but I make it work. I also use this amazing tray that I got at Joann Fabrics, and I have all of the different supplies that I'm using on these trays so I can switch them out and I can keep track of what supplies I'm using for each project. I don't tend to work on one until it's done. I tend to work on something. Rarely do I do start to finish. It's usually over a series of time that goes by. And this is great too because I can let each piece dry between the layers, which is great. But I do have to set up my studio with a table in the middle. It works. I can lay out several pieces at a time. I can lay out these smaller pieces and work on them simultaneously. So I had 5 of these in my stories and collections. Stories and connections pieces that I was working on. They each, they had an overarching theme. But then they had different themes within each piece. So it was nice to be able to lay them all out on the table and work with them all at once in that way. An overarching theme over all of them, but they can all be sold separately as well. I did a lot of writing with my Posco pens in the background, and then I would cover those up with white gesso in places so that the words weren't super prominent. But these 5 pieces that I worked on were smaller in size, but they all had the same theme. So it was easier to work on them all at once and get those ideas out and down on the canvases. I think sometimes with these mixed media pieces, we could just keep going and going and pushing and pushing. There is a point in time where I have to tell myself, okay, you are good to go. I wanted to draw in each of these semicircles that I made, each kind of housing in their own theme. Reading a book, having coffee with a friend, praying with a friend, those kinds of things. I'm really happy with how they turned out. Another piece became very important to me. I wrote my story of the past few years in the background, and then I overlaid it with several different flowers. And it became very special to me, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. After I had everything painted and framed and ready to go, I needed to step into the next part of the preparation, which was preparing the cards that go with each of the pieces. So it has the title, what medium I used, the size, the price, and then my website, my name, and my website. And I made all of this in Canva. And then I also created little cards that matched that I was going to have on my table. And then I also used Canva to create my certificates of authentication, and this process involves the photography of my pieces as well. So I took pictures of all of my work and I put them into the certificate of authentication, and then I put them on the back. I put the certificate of authentication on the back, and I also made sure that I signed each piece as well. And then on the day of, we packed up the car and we headed out. Leading up to the event, I did promote, as well as the individuals that were running the event, they promoted as well. So whatever they put out, I would share, and then I would also promote on my social feeds as well. Once we got to Elkhart, and we had the pleasure of unpacking the car and getting everything set out. The venue was beautiful, and I just couldn't wait to get all of my things in the space. Of course, Neil helped me, and it was so easy. We had a cart, and everything tiny fits into one bin, and it was really easy to get everything up. So once I was in the space, I hung all the pieces, put all the pieces on the easel, and Neil went around and put all the tags up for me, and we just worked together to get that all done. But yes, the space was just beautiful, and I was so pleased with the space that I had to be able to showcase my work. So for a gallery, you usually install, and then you'll have like an open house. This was a little bit an open house or a reception. This was a little bit different since this was a one-day event. We got there early. We installed all of the pieces. And so attending the reception or event was all in one day, like I said. And I did something that I have not done before, and I painted live. The next step in my processing is engaging with the audience, and I did something that I've never done before, which was painted live. Now, a little secret I'm going to share with you: I do not like to paint and draw in front of other people. So this was really stretching me out of my comfort zone, but I did it. And anytime someone stopped by and had any questions, I would pause and answer their questions. But it was just a lot of fun to be able to engage with my audience in a totally different way by painting live. So I just want to mention the 4 pieces that I worked on painting live. I had pre-prepped these works ahead of time, and I was just going in with another layer of paint. But the overall theme of this collection is the unseen wonders. So there's lots of fairies and butterflies and bumblebees and little lanterns and things like that. But it was so fun to be able to do that live. And I was able to kind of relax and just kind of, work in the moment. More and more people made their way in and began to take their seats, and then the event started.